The highly anticipated haute couture fashion show at Forrester Creations was supposed to be a triumphant return to glory for Eric Forrester, a night of elegance, sophistication, and unparalleled glamour. However, the glittering event quickly devolved into the most catastrophic and humiliating public scandal in the history of the Forrester family. As the elite of Los Angeles gathered, champagne glasses in hand, their eyes fixed on the massive digital screens expecting to see the final showstopper gown, a horrifying glitch occurred. Instead of high fashion, the screens illuminated with leaked, high-definition security footage from the Forrester CEO office. The room fell into a deathly, suffocating silence as the unmistakable figures of Steffy Forrester Finnegan and Carter Walton appeared on the screen, heavily intoxicated, stripping away their clothes and crossing the ultimate line of betrayal. The passionate, undeniable evidence of their drunken affair played out in front of the entire fashion industry, shattering the carefully constructed facades of two of the most powerful executives in Los Angeles. For John Finn Finnegan, the world simply stopped spinning. Standing in the front row, his eyes locked onto the screen, the devoted doctor experienced a visceral, soul-crushing agony that defied all comprehension. This was the woman he had placed on an impossibly high pedestal, the wife he had repeatedly praised for her unwavering honesty, purity, and moral superiority. He had spent weeks agonizing over his own minor omissions regarding his biological mother, Sheila Carter, begging for Steffy's forgiveness, while she hypocritically accepted his apologies while harboring this devastating, filthy secret. The sheer magnitude of the betrayal hit him like a physical blow to the chest. Every reassuring word Steffy had spoken, every promise of their unbreakable bond, evaporated into the cold, harsh reality of the flashing screen. Finn's breathing became erratic, his medical training failing to calm the violent, erratic pounding of his own. Shattered heart as he stared at the undeniable proof of his wife's infidelity with a man he considered a close friend. A few feet away, Daphne Rose Walton's reaction was a portrait of absolute, paralyzing devastation. She had recently returned from Paris, having conquered her profound functional depression following a severe infertility and early menopause diagnosis. She had fought her way back to Los Angeles, ready to fight for her marriage, ready to explore IVF, surrogacy, or adoption, all because Carter had looked her in the eyes and promised that she was his entire world. He had sworn that his love for her transcended his desire for biological children, that his legendary integrity and devotion belonged solely to her. Watching her husband passionately embrace another woman on a 50-foot screen, Daphne felt her entire reality crumble into dust. The guilt she had carried for leaving him, the desperation she felt to make their marriage work, all of it was a twisted joke. Carter had not been mourning their relationship. He had been desecrating their vows on the CEO's desk. The public humiliation was a secondary torture to the profound, intimate knife twisting in her back. The immediate aftermath in the showroom was a symphony of chaos, gasps, and flashing camera bulbs as the press realized they had just witnessed the scandal of the decade. Steffy, paralyzed by the sudden exposure of her darkest secret, attempted to reach out to Finn, her voice trembling with pathetic, useless apologies that fell on deaf ears. Carter, stripping away his usual stoic, honorable demeanor, stood frozen in a state of agonizing guilt, unable to even look Daphne in the eyes. The excuses died in their throats, suffocated by the undeniable truth playing on a loop above them. Unable to breathe the same toxic air as the woman who had just destroyed his life, Finn turned on his heel and fled the Forrester building, escaping the suffocating pity of the onlookers. Daphne, clutching her chest as if trying to hold her shattered heart together, followed suit. Running blindly into the Los Angeles night, desperate to escape the suffocating reality of her husband's monstrous betrayal. Fate, or perhaps the magnetic pull of shared, unbearable trauma, led both Finn and Daphne to the dimly lit, familiar sanctuary of the Bikini Bar. The usually vibrant establishment was quiet, offering a dark corner for two broken souls to hide from the glaring spotlight of their ruined lives. Finn found Daphne sitting in a secluded booth, her shoulders shaking with violent, uncontrollable sobs, her tears staining the polished wood of the table. Seeing the profound agony in her eyes, an agony that perfectly mirrored the jagged, bleeding wound in his own chest, Finn slid into the booth across from her. No words were needed in those initial, heavy moments. They were two victims of a cruel, hypocritical betrayal, bound together by the sudden, violent destruction of their marriages. The doctor who dedicated his life to healing others and the woman who had fought so hard to heal herself were now bleeding out together, victims of Steffy and Carter's selfish, intoxicating moment of weakness. As the alcohol flowed and the initial shock began to subside, the tears of sorrow slowly morphed into a simmering, dangerous fury. Daphne, her voice raw and trembling, articulated the profound injustice of their situation. She spoke of the agonizing guilt she had carried for her infertility, the way she had blamed herself for Carter's unhappiness, only to realize he had used her vulnerability as a convenient cover to sleep with the boss. Finn, his usual calm and forgiving demeanor replaced by a cold, hardened resolve, echoed her sentiments. He recounted the psychological torture of Steffy's hypocritical demands, the way she had forced him to grovel for her forgiveness regarding Sheila, all while she was hiding the ultimate betrayal. The sheer audacity of Steffy and Carter's deception ignited a spark of vindictive clarity in both Finn and Daphne. They realized that simply walking away, simply filing for divorce and allowing the traitors to wallow in their own guilt was not enough. They needed Steffy and Carter to feel the exact agonizing pain that was currently tearing them apart. In the shadowy corner of the bikini bar, a pact was forged, a desperate, calculated, and brilliant plan born from the ashes of their shattered lives. They would not be the tragic, pathetic victims of this scandal. They would not hide in the shadows while Steffy and Carter attempted to control the narrative. Instead, Finn and Daphne decided to launch a psychological counterattack designed to inflict maximum emotional damage. They would fake a romantic relationship, a passionate, undeniable rebound that would force their cheating spouses to watch them move on happily and publicly with each other. The irony was perfect, the betrayed doctor and the betrayed wife finding solace and passion in each other's arms. It was a strategy designed to weaponize jealousy, to drive Steffy and Carter to the brink of insanity by showing them exactly what they had thrown away, and worse, showing them that they had been instantly replaced. The execution of their vengeful masterclass began almost immediately, sending shockwaves through the already reeling Los Angeles high society. Finn and Daphne made their first public appearance as a couple at a high-profile charity gala hosted by Spencer Publications. The moment they stepped onto the red carpet, fingers intertwined, exchanging lingering, affectionate smiles, the paparazzi went into an absolute frenzy. Daphne looked breathtaking, radiating a newfound, untouchable confidence, while Finn stood tall, his protective arm wrapped securely around her waist. The message was clear, broadcasted across every fashion blog and gossip column in the city. Finn and Daphne were not mourning their marriages. They were celebrating their liberation. The visual impact of their united front was a masterstroke of psychological warfare, designed specifically to penetrate the walls of Forrester Creations and strike directly at the hearts of the traitors. The impact on Steffy Forrester Finnegan was immediate and violently destructive. Trapped in the fallout of the leaked video, facing the judgment of her family and the media, Steffy was already unraveling. But seeing the images of Finn, her Finn, the man she had taken for granted, the man whose unwavering devotion she had exploited, holding Daphne with such tender reverence, pushed Steffy over the edge of sanity. The hypocrisy of her own actions was lost in a blinding, suffocating wave of jealousy. She had convinced herself that Finn would eventually forgive her, that her tears and apologies would eventually wear him down, as they always did. Watching him publicly flaunt his connection with Daphne shattered that delusion. Steffy became obsessed, constantly refreshing entertainment news sites, her heart pounding with a toxic mixture of regret, rage, and a desperate, clawing need to reclaim the husband she had so carelessly thrown away. For Carter Walton, the psychological torture was equally agonizing, though manifested in a quiet, crushing despair. He had built his entire identity on being the moral compass of Forrester Creations, the man of unwavering integrity. The leaked video had destroyed his professional reputation, but watching Daphne smile at Finn destroyed his soul. Carter knew the depths of Daphne's pain, knew the struggles she had faced with her infertility diagnosis, and he knew that he had been the one to inflict the final, fatal blow to her heart. Seeing her find comfort, joy, and apparent romantic fulfillment with Finn was a daily, excruciating reminder of his colossal failure as a husband and as a man. Carter was forced to watch from the sidelines, suffocating in his own guilt, as the woman he loved seemingly slipped through his fingers and into the arms of the man he had betrayed. Every public sighting of the new couple was a dagger twisting in Carter's gut, a punishment far worse than any divorce settlement. Finn and Daphne continued their relentless campaign, ensuring their presence was felt at every major event in the city. They dined at Il Giardino, requesting tables in the center of the restaurant, laughing intimately over glasses of wine, perfectly aware that the waitstaff would report their every move back to the Forrester and Spencer camps. They attended gallery openings and fashion previews, their body language a masterclass in feigned devotion. Whenever Steffy or Carter attempted to approach them, desperate for a moment of explanation or a plea for forgiveness, Finn and Daphne would present a united, impenetrable front of cold, polite indifference. They refused to engage in screaming matches or tearful confrontations. Their weapon was happiness, or at least the illusion of it, and they wielded it with devastating precision, watching with dark satisfaction as Steffy and Carter slowly lost their minds to jealousy and regret. However, as the weeks progressed, the brilliant, vindictive charade began to undergo a subtle, profound transformation. The plan required them to spend countless hours together, coordinating their public appearances, rehearsing their affectionate gestures, and sharing the intimate details of their respective traumas. In the quiet, private moments away from the flashing cameras and the prying eyes of Los Angeles society, the walls they had built to protect themselves began to lower. The fake, lingering glances required for the paparazzi slowly transitioned into moments of genuine, searching eye contact. The scripted touches, a hand on the small of the back, fingers brushing across a cheek, began to ignite a real, undeniable warmth that neither of them had anticipated. The line between their calculated performance and their true, raw emotions began to blur, creating a confusing, intoxicating new reality. Finn, who had spent years navigating the volatile, demanding, and often toxic energy of Steffy Forrester, found himself profoundly disarmed by Daphne's presence. As he spent more time with her, he realized that Daphne possessed a gentle, nurturing soul that stood in stark contrast to the chaotic whirlwind of his marriage. She was empathetic, deeply intelligent, and possessed a quiet strength that did not require manipulation or ultimatums. Finn found himself looking forward to their private conversations, finding a sense of peace and genuine understanding that he had never experienced with Steffy. He realized that the fake smiles he wore for the cameras were becoming genuine whenever Daphne walked into the room. The realization hit him with the force of a tidal wave. He was not just acting anymore. The gentle, compassionate woman sitting across from him was exactly the kind of partner he had been subconsciously searching for his entire life. Daphne, too, was experiencing a profound emotional awakening that threatened to derail their entire revenge plot. She had loved Carter deeply, but his betrayal had shattered the illusion of his legendary integrity. In Finn, Daphne found the very essence of the sincerity and devotion that Carter had so callously discarded. Finn was attentive, fiercely protective, and genuinely interested in her healing. He listened to her fears about her infertility without judgment, offering a medical and emotional perspective that made her feel truly seen and valued. When Finn held her hand to ward off the paparazzi, Daphne felt a surge of genuine safety and electricity that made her breath catch in her throat. She began to realize that the man she was using as a pawn in her game of vengeance was rapidly becoming the anchor keeping her tethered to sanity. The fake relationship was no longer a shield against her pain, it was becoming the cure. The emotional climax of their blurred reality arrived during a quiet evening at Finn's hotel suite, far away from the chaotic social scene of Los Angeles. They had just returned from a highly publicized charity dinner, having successfully driven Steffy into a tearful, jealous retreat. As they sat on the balcony, overlooking the glittering city lights, the adrenaline of their performance faded, leaving a heavy, charged silence between them. Finn turned to Daphne, the moonlight catching the profound vulnerability in his eyes. He reached out, not for the cameras, not for an audience, but for her, gently cupping her face in his hands. He confessed that the act was no longer an act, that the peace and joy he found in her presence were the most real things he had felt in years. He admitted that while their journey had started in the dark, bitter depths of revenge, it had led him to a light he never expected to find. Daphne leaned into his touch, a single tear escaping her eye, washing away the last remnants of her lingering grief for Carter. She looked at the handsome, devoted doctor who had helped her stitch her shattered heart back together, realizing that her own feelings mirrored his exact confession. The vengeance that had fueled her for weeks suddenly felt hollow and insignificant compared to the genuine, burning connection she felt with Finn. The realization that they had accidentally found true love in the wreckage of their broken marriages was both terrifying and incredibly beautiful. When Finn leaned in and kissed her, a deep, searching, and entirely real kiss, Daphne kissed him back with a fierce, undeniable passion that cemented their transition from co-conspirators to true lovers. The fake romance had died, giving birth to a profound, authentic relationship.